dying.
Salama family, salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is not going to be long, but Yakoba sees things other people may not see, or maybe I'm seeing things that's not there, but I'm suspicious by nature. And, there was there was a friend, a Facebook friend, sent me a post about IMF. I was so blessed by what IMF did to me, and want me to follow up, scam, right? But I'm like, you got to understand, I'm like the worst target for scams, right? I'm the worst target for scams. Why? I don't trust nobody. All right. So it's like, if you're going to come up to me with some IMF scam, guess what I'm going to do? I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna check the IMF. I'm gonna go and research. I'm gonna call the IMF. I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna ask people. I'm like the worst target for a scam. They ought to know this. I'm the worst target for a scam. So anyway, I'm suspicious by nature. So what I'm gonna talk about is what I see, and maybe maybe I'm seeing things, maybe it's not there. Now, the title is Israel Framed by Their Own. Now, I'm going to talk about fake Israel first, right? I'm going to talk about what's happening there first, right? So that I'm going to put it all together for you, what I'm seeing. And so, some people may agree, some people may not agree, but I told you I'm suspicious by nature. So let me share this article with you. And we're going to build upon why I'm suspicious, right? All right. So it says Israel is vaccinating so fast, it's running out of vaccines. Now, we're talking about fake Israel right now and, the Ish people. And so, we're going to see where this might come and affect us in some kind of way, right? I told you I'm suspicious by nature. So it says Israel, which has inoculated a higher proportion of its population against the coronavirus than any other country, is delivering shots so quickly that it is outstripping its supply of vaccine. Health officials are scrambling to buy more doses and said they may pause giving the first round of shots to younger citizens to deliver the second final injections to the elderly. The situation is essentially the opposite of that in many parts of the United States, where vaccine doses are sitting unused as mass inoculation programs struggle to build momentum. The U.S. vaccination rate is about 1%. Israel, with a much smaller population and socialized health care, has reached 12% of its residents with the initial dose. Since rolling out the campaign on December 20th, Israel has repeatedly surpassed its goal of 150,000 vaccinations a day. Israel's head start on the vaccine count does not include almost 5 million Palestinians under its control in the occupied West Bank and the blockaded Gaza Strip, where cases are also surging. Human rights organizations have said Israel is responsible for populations under its control and called on the country to extend its demonstration prowess to assist in the vaccination program in the territories. Israel, which is inoculating residents of Jewish settlements in the West Bank, has rejected claims of human rights groups that it is obliged to provide vaccination to Palestinians in the territories, citing the 1990 Oslo Peace Accords. Israeli officials said that Palestinians bear responsibility for their own health care, although some officials have said they will donate vaccine doses after Israeli citizens have been inoculated. I'm sure they will. On New Year's Day, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Edelstein held a news conference celebrating the millionth person to be vaccinated. An inoculation in El Fam, an Arab town within Israel's borders, which, along with other Arab communities, has been among the hardest hit with the virus. All right, so I'm gonna just stop right there on that particular article. But Israel is at such a fast pace of vaccinating that, obviously, they're running out of the vaccine. So before we continue, I'm gonna let Brother Steven introduce himself. Say hi to the family, Brother Steve.
What's up, bro? What's up, y'all?
So I'm gonna share a particular message from modern Israel of what's going on there, right? And I know you all gonna be asking, well, what did this have to do with us? And we're gonna get there towards the end, right? We're gonna get there towards the end. So let's share this.
Been very, very, very intense over here in Israel. I don't know how much you're seeing, but it's terrible. It's a very, 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 very frightening situation. So I joined we had a human rights movement, and we made it into a political party that's running in our Knesset in less than a month, and they're censoring us and attacking us, and they won't allow any media, nothing. They took away the head of the party's his medical license, and they removed our platforms from Facebook, and now they won't let the media even write about us. So we want to ask all the international, anywhere we can get to publicize what we are saying. It's a very bad situation here. They're not letting children as young as 16 to take their matriculation exams without taking this injection. They are, of course, insisting people for work. They're making this green passport where half the population cannot get into theaters or malls or all sorts of things unless they've taken the vaccination. They're creating a medical apartheid. They have now issued, just this morning, they made it that they're allowed to send each person's private medical records to the local municipality so that they'll know who's taken the injection or not. They're making people wear a ankle bracelet, security bracelet, when they come back from traveling. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. If I stop to think about it, I will cry, But meantime, we just keep fighting, fighting as much as we can. So we need everybody's help, because whatever happens here will happen everywhere. So we're fighting for ourselves, and we're fighting for the whole world. But we need help. I need everything, every hand on deck. Yeah, thank you, Slicha. Excuse me. It's intense,
All right. So we see in the modern state of Israel that they're forcing this vaccination program, and apparently it's becoming, oppressive. Brother Steve, what do you think about what you just heard?
Hello.
Yeah, yeah, we just heard you. Okay, he having connection problems. So apparently, they're having oppressive measures happening there. Now, the interesting thing is that when you look at what happened in the past with our people, when we were persecuted, in Spain and Portugal, right? We became second class and third class citizens. They took our property, they took our clothes, they took our wealth. As we go through the history, we see that, and we don't have to worry about proving it because we have enough of history out there that we've all discussed. So, Brother Steve, what did you think about what you heard happening in the modern state of Israel?
For what I could hear about it, so I had to take a emergency call for work. But what I could hear about it, I mean, the move is on to suppress the truth, and you're going to leave it to the ish people to be the spearhead of that movement,
So one of the interesting things is, as I told you, I look deep at things, and I ask questions. So here's an article. It says Hebrew University professor defends cry that ultra-Orthodox are spreading coronavirus. Israeli chemist Professor Amram Goldblum posted on Facebook that some ultra-Orthodox towns, as well as large neighborhoods in Ashdod and Jerusalem, should be put under quarantine. So they're accusing them of spreading the Rona. Now, the question is this: why are the Orthodox being accused of spreading the Rona? It's because they don't want to get the vax, right? And because they don't want to get the vax, they're being vilified. Now, my point being is here, there's something we're seeing happening again in history, right? Now, as I mentioned before, I believe it will affect us as well, right? So over time, well, let me finish that article and then I'll go to the next one. It says a Hebrew University of Jerusalem professor on Tuesday said he defends his statement that Haredi ultra-Orthodox Jews are spreading the coronavirus around Israel, and that the health ministry under the auspices of the health minister Yaakov Litzman is turning a blind eye. Earlier this week, Professor Goldblum, a chemist, posted on Facebook that the Haredi cities of Elad, Beni, Brock, Modi, and so forth, right, as well as large neighborhoods in Ashdod and Jerusalem, should be put under quarantine for fear that some residents are carriers. So what we see here is the uptick of the fear program, right? So they're spreading fear that the Rona is out of control and that these people are spreading it. Now, like I said, you're not accusing other people of spreading it in quote unquote modern Israel. You're accusing the Orthodox. Why? Because they follow a particular religion, right? And because they follow a particular religion, right, they're being persecuted for not giving in to the global movement. Now, what I see happening is, and you gotta understand the duality of what's happening, right? So let me go here. So remember, back in World War II, right? The quote unquote Jews had the yellow star of David, right? To mark them as Jews. Now today, right, you're going to have the vaccine passport, right? So those who don't go along are going to be marked just like they were here, right? Outcast, right? People who are on the fringe of society will not have their Rona passport. And so we can see this moving already, right? And the funny thing is that it's starting in the nation of Israel, which sort of blows my mind right there. Brother Steve, can you see the possible parallels of us, having to deal globally with us being second-class citizens, just like the Jews of Nazi Germany were, who had to wear the stars.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a template and a copying of things that are happening, and ultimately leave it to Esau to do that. And effectively, what's being spearheaded by the I want to call it the blood, one of the bloodlines of the prince, to start this process that starts with them, but then it finishes with everyone else, especially us. So, and also, just as I'm thinking about it, if you consider that because of our captivity, we were once the head, and now we're at this point the tail, as we're beginning to be restored. They're the de facto head because of their covenant with Lucifer. So it starts with them, and I believe it works down.
So, Brother Steve, when it comes to what we've talked about in the past, we talked about our awakening to being Israelites, right? We talked about the curses that were on the nation of Israel, the true Hebrew Israelites. And at the same time, we talked about what the scripture says about those who have enslaved Israel and what would happen to their descendants. And we warned them. Do you see this as prophecy coming to pass, where the curses that were on Israel, right, is now starting to fall upon all of those who were part of the transatlantic slave trade, and it's going to happen globally? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I'm very curious, because I understand that, for me, this is still more of a question, more so than a statement. I'm very curious as to what I see what's happening to the Gentile nations, but especially for this bloodline in particular, Ashkenaz, because it's mentioned by name in Jeremiah 50:51, in terms of his role in the fall of Babylon, among others. So, of course, there's a component of these curses being passed on to them, but I'm also curious as to what component of this is also that portion in Jeremiah 2. So, but absolutely.
So we see this. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. What was is what shall be. And so when we saw through history the calamity that came upon our people in Portugal and Spain, right now, we're starting to see the inklings or the shadows of these things first, which I'm surprised, be honest with you. I'm surprised that it is starting in the modern state of Israel. I thought it would have started, like, let's say, in France or Britain or Switzerland or something like that. I would have thought it would have started there, right? So we saw in the particular MP4, recording that I played in the beginning, that there's something going on in the nation of Israel where it's not getting much publicity. And I forgot to thank you, Cam, for the gift, and I think it was Jim or Jewel or whatever. I'm sorry if I forgot your name. Thanks for the gift. Eric Tinsley, thanks for the gift. So we see here something similar on the horizon, this shadow, this darkness that's hovering on over the world. And like I said, I'm surprised that it seems to be starting in the modern state of Israel. And so when I looked at this, right, there's things that came to my mind of the reversing of the curse, right? And people don't believe us, right? And they won't believe us until it's too late. And it's pretty much too late already, in my opinion, that these things will come to pass. And so when we look at what's happening, we also have to look at the dialectic that's being played on us as the true Israelites of the Bible. And so I want to share this article, and I'm going to share something else, and then we're going to sort of like bring that down a bit. So the African Hebrew Israelites want to be a part of Israel, but Israel still won't commit. So we know that the black Hebrew Israelite, that's what they call us, right? The ones who went to Dimona, wanted to be a part of the nation of modern Israel. Thank you, Ibri Ben Yaakov, for the gift. All right, they started leaving the U.S., land of the great captivity, 50 years ago, and have weathered racism and poverty in Israel, establishing a vibrant community. But the legal status of the Black Hebrews is still unresolved. Thanks for the gift, SN. So, Kasadaya Bat Israel and her husband, Yahushua, were riding a public bus in Beersheba recently when, out of the blue, a fellow passenger started hurling racist insults at them while broadcasting the interaction live on Facebook with her cell phone. The video went viral and the passenger was vehemently criticizing Israeli media and online. She later told Israel's Channel 10 television news that she had been joking around. I'm not going to read the rest. You can read the rest if you want. But the point being, the emphasis is on the African Hebrew Israelites want to be a part, right, of the modern state of Israel. And we see that, right? We see them serving in their military, right? We see them acquiescing to some of their laws, right, and some of their ways, even though they have their own little version of things. And then, you know, we see that what they do to the, I guess you could call them repatriates, if you want to call it that. Because I don't even believe that's the land, but I digress. We see some of the repatriates from Ethiopia and how the modern state of Israel treats them. So we know that there's a need or a want to fit in, like our people always wanted to fit in America. We know there's a need to fit in. Now, what I'm about to show you right now is the reason that I wanted to do this show in the first place, right? The reason that I wanted to do this show. And let me get that set up for you right quick. Because what's going on is, as I mentioned, Israel is being framed. Now, remember what I told you. Okay, we have that historical comparison to the past with the yellow stars, right? Of the Ashkenaz, right? Jews when they were in Germany. We have the move to them being second-rate citizens, and we also saw the article where they were blaming the Orthodox Jews in modern Israel for spreading the virus. So that's their own people that were blaming them for spreading the virus. Now, here's the funny thing, and it's really not funny, it's sad. Because now we have our own people spreading falsehoods, right? Trying to frame Israel, somebody who a lot of people take as a leader within the Israelite community. You know, some of y'all, I mean, not me, right? But some of y'all take him as a leader. All right, so let's listen to this.
These many years we've been here in Israel, and as you see, most of the brothers still don't have Israeli permanent residence. They still have their American passports after 50 years. I've just applied for my permanent residence for the purpose of opening up a tabernacle congregation of prayer organization here in Israel. Because in order to have a non-profit corporation here, you must have a residence ID. So for this reason, I applied. We have two only official organizations here in Israel that are non-profit. That's the Member of a Better World with Adidia and A New Day with Anavia. You saw us before the lawyer signing an affiliation degree for the purpose of building our own village. This is a proposal that we put forth to have our own village built here in Israel. And this proposal starts with us first building the house of the Most High. We're asking for our people to join us in Demona and Miss Ramon in the establishment of the true village of peace here in the land of Israel, before the mountain of Zion. Now, as Rabbi Joshua Amaria, I'm and the official spokesman here in the land of Israel, with these documents of the rabbis that officially state, and I'm going to put a link for all the rabbis and the chief rabbis that officially made me a representative, official representative here in Israel.
I'm gonna pause there for a second so I could give some context, because some of you all don't know who this guy is. He's Hawasha Amriel, right? And he belongs to the Demona Israelites. Now, he's the guy who was saying that the modern city of Israel Jerusalem is not Jerusalem. He said another location is. Thank you, Priscilla, for the gift. So this particular guy, a lot of camps follow him. And so if you look at some videos, you will see this guy sacrificing lambs and on Passover and doing all this foolishness, right? And from my understanding, they don't believe in Yeshua as Messiah. So they're a lot like the modern Israelites, right? Not Israelite, but he's more like the modern Ashkenazi in terms of theology, right? So and probably a little worse, because he's actually sacrificing lambs and stuff like that. So he from my understanding, he don't believe in Yeshua. And so this particular guy, you will see him in many camp videos talking about the nation of Israel. Like I told you, I don't believe that's our land. That's sort of moot for me. But in the camp circles, he's known. Okay. So I hope that answered your question, and I'll continue with the video.
On the official opacity, I'm saying, and I'm clearly saying, if you're not sick, and if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. If we're not showing any sickness or any signs of illness, there's no need for us to take a corona test. If you show signs of sickness, by all means, take a test. And if you have the virus, by all means, take the vaccine. This is our official stand here in Israel, through our community, and throughout the world. Anybody that want us to follow any other rules, they need to put us out of their village into our own community. And in America, we need to be asked to put out of America in order that we can establish our own. Now, I've heard reports in America that America has become the most infected country throughout the world. But I also heard reports that that's because of a group of Hebrew radicals that has been infected, and they're going around infecting white people as saying, let us go with our reparations. I am against brothers that are infected using corona as a terrorist tool to infect white people in America and saying, let us go with our reparations. Corona is truly a tool, a sword of the Most High, but we should not, and the infected brothers should not be going around infecting white people for the hope that they will cast us out of America, and all of the infected black people that are there, that they will cast us out. I heard that the radical part of our community, the young brothers, they are doing this. They put down their weapons and their M16s, and those that have become kamikaze Hebrew Israelites that are infected, and they're going indiscriminately out, purposely spitting and touching and infecting white people for the purpose of saying, let us go without reparations. And I'm saying to white America, cast out these infected black radicals that's purposely infecting you with the coronavirus. Let them go with their reparations. And all of the other brothers that are there, let's make a peaceful transition, because the Most High clearly said, and we clearly see the love of many Americans that have recognized that we are the true children of Israel, and it's being testified everywhere that the Most High is with us in this 400 years of our captivity. And the scripture says that in the place that it was said that we are not his people, in that place it said that we are the children of the Most High God. So I'm making this special report and saying that we do not agree and we are not behind the radical brothers that are out and are infected, and they are infecting more people specifically for the purpose of being cast out of America with that corona plague, and to be put on Trump's medical ship to be shipped out of America.
All right, so y'all heard this foolishness. I'm like, I've never heard such a thing in my life. I haven't heard anything about any Israelites spreading no virus. I haven't heard of any Israelites spitting on anybody and touching people and messing with white folks. I'm sorry, where does foolishness come from? That's what I want to know. Brother Steve, what the heck is going on with this dude?
This is the biggest pile of hot garbage I have heard in a long time. And I'm gonna make a gut call on it now. This dude's COINTELPRO.
Yep.
That's all I can say is that this dude, he's being funded by Israel. He's being directed by their hands. This dude's COINTELPRO, man. And if people can't see that, I would know what else to say, because if anybody is foolish enough to follow this type of craziness, you know, they gonna end up getting hurt. And I'm just that's just keeping it real. I've never heard such craziness in a very long time, especially coming from one of our own.
But isn't it interesting that we had the Orthodox Jews being accused of spreading a virus? Now the Hebrew Israelites are being accused of spreading the virus from Israel, right? From the land of quote unquote Israel. And now we're being painted with this brush of being terrorists, because that's literally what they're accusing us of. Brother Yeti, what's your thoughts on this foolishness?
Shalom, shalom, family. Yes, sounds like foolishness to me. I'm familiar with Mr. Mario as a false teacher. Just have to use a good discernment with when dealing with his teaching. So it's not all false, but he's talking foolishness at this point.
So why do you think that he's trying to paint the Hebrew Israelites as terrorists? I mean, because that's literally what he's saying. Brother Karras, what's your thoughts on this foolishness? I'm like, what's with this dude?
I was in the chat. Oh, I didn't even realize that you had put this for Patreons. So I got my tea, trying to get my voice ready. Oh, paid agents. But you already knew that, because here's the thing. They weren't just going to be there in Dimona. You know, you understood what they were going to do and how things were going to play on out back in 2014, 2015. If you look, they have a little special on Amazon Prime. They'll talk about the Black Israelites living there in Dimona. And the problem that you have is, if they're promoting and they're being promoted in that that semi-mainstream environment, then you already know that they're there for not our agenda, but for their agenda.
So we have a comparison here between what they were doing to the Orthodox Jews. They were accusing them of spreading it as well because they didn't want to take the vax. Now, it's interesting. Why would they, first of all, want to accuse their own of spreading the virus? And now we see the same thing. So here's what I'm thinking, that, there's this global move for anyone. And here's the thing, those who are committed to their belief, right, are the ones who are not going to take the vax. So, which is why the Orthodox Jews were being painted with the same brush of spreading the Rona, right? Because they didn't really say why the Orthodox were spreading the Rona, but they're saying, according to Amiel, right, that the Hebrew Israelites are spreading it because we don't like the white man, because we want to get reparations and get kicked out of the land on some Trump massive hospital boat or some foolishness. I'm like, this dude is obviously listening to us, because what did he do? He mentioned the 400 years. He mentioned reparations. He mentioned us going back with wealth, right, or reparation, right? So do you all see the image that's being painted, right? Because we're talking about a second Exodus that's going to come, right? We talk about how we're going to go back with gold and silver and goods and all this stuff, whether it be by boats, planes, or whatever. And now all of a sudden, this guy comes out, and he's obviously an Israeli paid agent or informant, whatever you want to call him. Do y'all see this as a means to try to hide the coming Exodus and get people to think we're psychotics, right? That hey, they're spitting on people. Can you imagine what urban apologists are going to do next, right? They're going to be putting this guy on there and painting all of us as terrorists, right? Just like they did with the supposed Israelites that went in there and shot up some mosque. I mean, not a mosque, a synagogue. So what's y'all thoughts on this dynamic here? That's, there seems to be a coordinated effort to paint not only Hebrew Israelite, but Jews, right? Whether we want to call the Ish people, whatever, and the true Jews, right? There seems to be this combining of an onslaught, right? And because I think what it is so long as we're convicted by quote unquote the word, right, then they can't move us, right? The Christians, quote unquote, they have this liberty where they can do whatever they want, right? They have this liberty where they say, well, I'm gonna go and take it because God gonna protect me. But God's word said, don't he told you don't eat anything, that's unclean, but you're gonna put something in your blood that's unclean. That don't make no sense to me. What's y'all thoughts on this whole thing? I mean, does it portend persecution to the true Israelites? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the system of Babylon has to create a doctrine to justify, justify the hatred, to justify the secondary things that are happening. So, it wouldn't surprise me if this guy doesn't make it to some type of mainstream news outlet by article, or even a little snippet to begin to further ostracize our people, even more. And for me personally, and just like what Lashana was saying, the dragon is very busy. And for me, working in the medical field, this V is a line in the sand, and that's just what it is. And for anyone who is not going to be willing to comply with it, they're gonna feel the heat, and the heat's coming.
So as I mentioned in other shows, this thing has the ingredients of the mark of the beast, right? It's not the full-fledged thing, but it's his little immature brother, or whatever you want to call it, the baby mark. I'm like, because we're going where the scriptures told us we were going to go, and we don't see the quote unquote church saying anything about this stuff. I don't get it. And when it comes on us, right, in mass, where you won't be able to go get food because, you know, once the economy crash and once, you know, they're gonna say there's a food shortage, you know, because as I showed in my other show, they were talking about how with the Great Reset, you know, one of the issues was hoarding. Well, we're not hoarding right now, so they had that already planned, right? And so you won't be able to go in and get that food unless you have your Rona papers. So how far do you all think we are from this thing turning up hot?
Honestly, I think we're probably about maybe 4 or 5 months away. I think 4 or 5 months away. And the reason that I'd say that is because you have to think about it like this. How does food and food shortages correlate? And I'm gonna put on my MBA hat, and this is what really happens when you have a lot of the contracts that are on out there for food and different fungible assets, your soybeans, your pork, you know, your wheat, your corn, things of that nature. Those are all based off of futures, and that's how those futures are reported by the Farm Bureau of each state in terms of what they expect and their bushels and things of that nature. Now, they can state that they have an issue with their production because of the people, and they may not have the people that's there. So, you know, those bushel contracts will start going low. And unfortunately, a lot of those contracts aren't done here in the United States. Those are exported elsewhere. That's why when people are like, well, there's going to be a pork shortage and all this other stuff, you know, all these shortages, it didn't mean that it wasn't enough for us to feed America. It's just that the fact that America doesn't get enough money from us. So this is why they have to export so they can grab that money outside for other nations. And so they're going to come through and they're going to say, well, you want to know what? The land got messed up. You know, things got messed up from the amount of frost and snow and things of that nature, because generally in those southern areas of Texas, that's when you're going to start getting a lot of those, the first produce, you know, your lettuces, your bell peppers, you know, all those things that you're going to see in the grocery stores. And now that's not going to be available. So, you know, the 4 to 5 months, I think of it like this, that's going to be in fullness for all of the nationwide. And nationwide is going to be a ripple effect. They're already trying to talk about that ripple effect, and they're also trying to talk about hyperinflation. So that's another one to worry about. And I wouldn't say for us to necessarily worry, but that's something that, you know, the cost of goods and those cost of those inputs is going to be an even greater cost. So now, you know, people are going to lose their jobs. So we're just going through another wave because they can't figure this thing on out.
So let me ask y'all a question. So Night Author Knight says, stop generalizing all Christians equal brothers and sisters in Christ. Is that true? I guess, see, I'm going to answer it for myself, right? It depends on what you mean by Christian. Because everybody, you know, who say Lord, Lord, not going into the kingdom.
Exactly.
You see, there's a lot of people who say they're Christians, but they ain't Christian by their actions. They're not Christians by their deeds. They don't do nothing in that word. See, some of y'all got the illusion of Christianity, right? Y'all got the veneer. Y'all say Lord, Lord, right? But y'all don't do what he say.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. So you know, when we say Christians, most of y'all are under Roman Catholicism anyway. You don't know it. I ain't trying to hate, but y'all got to get your doctrine straight. Okay, y'all got to listen to the Most High and live for Him. So I don't know if y'all want to say something about that. That's my point on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you love me, keep my commandments. You know, and that's just what it is. You know, 80% of America, 80% of America has polled consistently as being Christian, but clearly that's not the case. We're supposed to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. And again, this is an issue. This is an issue of the heart and of relationship. That these same tablets of stone are now written on the tablets of our heart that are covered by the blood of the Messiah. And we're called to walk this out daily, to present our body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto Him, and to follow to follow the word as best as we possibly can. And that's just what it is.
And I understand that a lot of Israelites don't identify as Christian, right? And I don't identify that way either. I identify as a follower of Yeshua. That's how I identify. And so I don't want to be put in a box. But I'm not going to say those who identify as Christians are not believers, right? There are some who identify that way, who are believers. And like with anything, they're working out their salvation with fear and trembling. They're growing, stuff like that. I don't want to cast an aspersion on individuals. But I can tell you, if we look at the fruit of what we call Christianity today, we got a lot of foolishness. I told you that before. We got a lot of foolishness in the choirs. We got a lot of foolishness behind the pulpit, right? We got a lot of stuff that nobody wants to call out, right? Dante gonna call out one of them soon on one of the videos coming out. I'm just saying there has to be a problem with people who identify as Christians and there's no fruit. Okay, and that's the biggest issue. Brother Yeti, you want to say something?
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. A lot of people are just Christians in name only, and their fruit doesn't show. Their actions do not show the fruit of the Spirit. So, I mean, it's prevalent in today's time, and that goes for Israelites too on the Hebrew side. Many call themselves believers, but their fruit doesn't show. So I mean, that goes on both sides.
Man, absolutely correct. It doesn't just apply to Christians, it applies to Israelites as well. It's just that when you look at the perception to, when you compare fruit, right? I don't see a lot of quote unquote Christians trying to live out that Bible. You see what I'm saying? I'm not painting everybody. Don't get me wrong. I'm not painting everybody, but I don't see a pursuit of holiness and a pursuit of, trying to understand what the Most High would have us to do by His word, right? And the resistance of His law, statutes, and commandments. Not in terms of salvation, because your flesh is weak. You ain't gonna get there in your flesh, but in terms of obedience, okay? In terms of love. In terms of living what the Most High has given you, right? To what the Bible says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. How you do that? How do you even do that? Right? You obey His word. And so, so I don't want to like paint everybody, right? Because everybody at different stages, and don't take it that way. So I wanted to show this to you all because I see some similarities here to Nazi Germany. I see similarities to what happened to us in Spain and Portugal. And I think this whole thing is about to increase because guarantee you, I'm not taking it, right? I'm not taking the vax. So whatever's going to be, I'm going to deal with it, right? But if this is already happening in modern state of Israel, then it is more than likely, as the woman said, as we played earlier in the program, that is coming here. Right. So I wanted you all to hear what's going on and how you got people who claim to be Israel who are not, just like you got people who claim to be Christians who are not. Right. It's all of us who are the true followers and believers of Yeshua. Right. That's the ones who need to come together because we're living a life towards the pursuit of holiness. Right. And so when we see this happening, you see the prophecies are true. Just like when I went back. And I looked at the history of our people in Spain and Portugal, and we saw all of the prophecies come in the past. Your children being taken from you, you being thrown out the land, you being low on a totem pole. Everywhere you go, you won't have peace. You were hunted from hill to hill. Every single thing that was prophesied against us has come to pass. And it's the same thing for the Gentiles. And that's why I've been trying to warn y'all. is that what's happening here, as I told you, is a slave system being built for you. Now, of course, their intention is to have us incorporated in it, but I'm telling you from the scriptures, we're not going. I'm talking about the believers. I'm talking about the ones who are living for Yeshua. We're not going to be in that satanic Luciferic system. We're going home back to Africa. Any final comments, family? Let's start with you, Brother Eddie.
Yeah, I don't want to start a whole new discussion, but as far as the persecution that's increasing, I'm praying that we're out of here before all that gets really fired up. Just according to Revelation 3:10, I'm praying that we're on our way to the wilderness before all that kicks up and increases.
And I agree with you. Let me ask you a question, Brother Eddie. In the past, we was talking about some of this stuff. Both you and I had a feeling that we should be approaching that time of deliverance sometime around this time. Not setting no dates, but just in our spirit, what we felt. You still feel that way, or do you think it might be further on?
No, I do. I just I think we disagree in our eschatology as far as the I believe there's going to be 2 Exodus groups. So I see a spring harvest coming. I pray we're out of here before the summer starts. Those that possess the Holy Spirit, Israelites that possess the Holy Spirit, and I believe those that aren't showing their fruits or living for Yah according to the Holy Spirit, they might have to endure that tribulation for a period of time until the fall harvest, possibly around 2022, and then I believe that's when our people come out with the great possessions and reparations and all that good stuff. The first group I see in the spring coming out or going into the wilderness. I don't believe we'll need anything for that wilderness journey. According to the scriptures, I believe it's Revelation 12:14. It says that we'll be our Abba Yah will provide for us in the wilderness for 3.5 years. So nothing, we won't need to take anything with us, meaning we won't have reparations and great possessions at that time, according to my understanding.
All right, thanks, Brother Yeti. Brother Steve, any final comments?
I mean, right along what you guys are saying, I'm prayerful that we are counted worthy, but for me, I'm still mentally preparing for the worst case scenario. And I'm hoping for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst as well. And along with the eschatology of Brother Yeti, this is the 3.5 year mark, or the 1,260 days from that sign of the woman back in September of 2017. This week actually. With Purim, the Feast of Lots, as well as I think from a celestial standpoint, I think Apophis, is that right? Coming through the dragon, coming through this weekend. Actually today, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I saw Truth Unveil talk about that, and he was saying by sundown today to I forgot how many days out. That we fall within that time frame. Thank you, Hell, for the gift. So, Brother Steve, in terms of that timing of things, right? I did find that very interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess for me, the way I am, I feel this way, that we don't know what our ancestors knew. So
exactly.
I think anything we look at is speculation at best.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I'm like, well, I hope he's right. I hope we get out of here.
And that's the point. Is like, the calendar and the system is so off. It's hard to make any real predictions on a lot of this stuff. But my hope rests in Yeshua. My hope rests in him. And for me, my baseline and my default is that, okay, Father, okay, Yeshua, I'm going to do the best I can to prepare and trust you. And if I have to be one of those that end up having to endure to the end, and so be it. If we get up out of here, great.
Exactly.
But in the meantime, I'm preparing. I got my seeds. I got my rain barrels. I got rice and dry goods and all and everything else, just in case. And I think that's an issue. That's more so an issue of prudence than anything else. So yeah.
Yep. All right, thanks, Brother Steve. Brother Karras, any final comments? You there, Brother Karras, or you drinking some tea?
You know, I had to drink some tea, clear my throat a little bit. You know. No, but what I was saying is I see when you hear it in spring later on, a lot of black folks are going to be heading on out to these water parks, you know, fully dressed, and they're going to be asking, "What are you doing at the water park without your swimming suit?" These folks are going to be going there stealing inner tubes. I have Busch Gardens here in Adventure Island. I'll be seeing them just walking down the street just with some inner tubes, talking about, "Look, I'm ready to go." But I think a lot of this stuff is starting to shape on up. I have an article here. I'm not going to share it, but it's on CNBC if y'all want to look at that. And I just want to read the highlight. It says Fauci says military members who opt out of COVID-19 vaccine are inadvertently part of the problem. Now, let me just explain this thing to you all. A lot of black folks in the military are not getting the vaccine. So that's a very shaded discussion right there. So it'll come through with that. I got to go, fam.
We shutting down. Say it with your chest. You got any comments, brother? And thank you for the gift out to Anastasia. You there? Say it with your chest.
Yeah, hey. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Any final comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch on the next one then, man. Sorry, I was at work and taking care of some things, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch this show actually, because I really didn't even know what the context was, but I was just gonna try to catch up as you guys were talking about the issues.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. So we'll see what happens, family. And I want to thank all the panel for coming on. And I want to thank you all for the gifts. I really appreciate the support. And if I forgot to mention your name, please forgive me. And love y'all with the love of the Messiah. And Sister Siobhan and Tim, I'll be replying to your email, and we'll be getting together hopefully next week. I didn't get to read it yet. All right. Peace and blessings, Israel. Love you with the love of the Messiah. Thank you, Sister LaShonda, for the gifts. All right, family. Pray for us. We'll pray for each other. Peace out.